What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports here to give you the edge for this NFL Week 6 slate on Draftkings. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future NFL content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.dgfantasy.com. On dgfantasy.com, we give you cheat sheets for every major sport, along with ownership projections, actual projections, and strategy for every single slate. We also cover optimal cash plays as well as preferred GPP plays and stacks for specific contest sizes. We do the dirty work for you. We are also currently partnered with Fantasy Cruncher, the best optimizer in the industry. When signing up for our $30 package, you also get a $20 credit to use towards any Fantasy Cruncher product. We provide the best value in the industry. Now let's go ahead and dive right into this Week 6 NFL slate. This is the first look video here with TJ because Kevin is no longer with us. No, he's just he's doing something with his wrestling, whatever. It was Kevin last week. It's now TJ. I don't know what TJ's doing. It's very distracting. All right. We're going to go position by position, give you guys our raw, unedited thoughts about the slate without ownership. And just like every other format, every other stream that we do, we go position by position, starting out the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. You guys get the drill. Let's start at the quarterback position. TJ, I've had a little bit more time because I do this 24/7 to look at these players and the price tags and the over-unders. So to me, it looks like there's a very standout option for pay up, a mid-range, and a bottom tier player for me personally, and I don't think there's anywhere else you can go. That's just me, but we'll talk about it here. Patrick Mahomes, $8,300. They've looked horrible on defense. It's literally just been Patrick Mahomes in that offense, and they're dealing with a couple injuries there in the wide receiver tight end. But
I was going to say, he's banged up. Something's going on with him.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Picks through 5 games already this year. That's how many he threw last year.
I think he's doing too much. I think he's trying to do too much. I don't know if it is an injury. It could be his brother. It could be his wife. I don't listen. I don't know what's going on there. At least that's what the reporters are blaming it on.
Right.
Anyway, $8,300. He has to get it going in this game. Not that he hasn't. Fantasy-wise, he's still doing fantastic. Right now, Washington, you might have to fact check me on this. They're ranked 30th against opposing quarterbacks in terms of fantasy points. At least that's what Fantasy Cruncher says.
Washington's given up the 6th most passing yards to opposing quarterbacks.
Then that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Regardless, they suck. Right now, Kansas City is projected to put up 31 points against the Washington football team. If you can pay up for Patrick Mahomes, please play him. I don't know if you're going to disagree with that. I don't know how you can. But then we're going down the list here. We have Kyler Murray. Not so obvious against Cleveland. Not as obvious as Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson, I mean, that was crazy because we just got done watching that game last night. $7,400 against the Chargers. Still not that obvious. Justin Herbert. Baltimore, 73.
Tears.
Price, what's that? Oh, the Colts.
Fans, tears.
Yeah.
All of
At $7,300 really doesn't make that much sense because you got a price increase. We have Aaron Rodgers, $7,200. Like, all these guys don't really make as much sense as Patrick Mahomes until we get to Matthew Stafford. $6,700 against the Giants. They are projected to score 29 points. And honestly, that price tag still looks a little soft based on what Matthew Stafford's been able to do with that offense. To me, he's the next obvious play. And just in terms of overall value. And I'm going to skip talking about the rest of these guys. One guy that sticks out to me, we already talked about this briefly before we started recording. Taylor Heineke should be throwing the ball this entire game, utilizing Terry McLaurin. Not to jump too far ahead there, but Taylor Heineke, $5,800. I'm trying to pick him up in season long because he has a great matchup against Kansas City. We talked about how bad they've been doing. He's only projected 24 points. This could easily be a shootout type game if this does stay competitive. This is at Washington, so it does favor them in that regard. So those are my favorite overall plays. I think it's going to be Taylor Heineke for pay down. It's going to be Matthew Stafford for mid-range, and then Patrick Mahomes if you can pay up for him at $8,300. Do you agree?
Yes. I like the Mahomes play there at 8,300. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs offense is going to continue to be in competitive games, Matt, because of how poor their defense has been. So it makes sense to me getting up 8,300, getting to Patrick Mahomes. I think that a lot of cash builds are going to be Taylor Heineke at 5,800 just because of how much salary you're going to be able to save. So I would assume he accrues most of the ownership. I know when we're talking about quarterbacks for fantasy in terms of ownership, it's normally around a guy from like 10 to 12%. we would consider chalky. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised
Now
if
for
he's
10
around
games,
15%.
probably going to be closer. Yeah, 15. Yep.
Right, yeah, and you got to take into consideration it's a 10-game slate instead of a 12 or 13-game slate. We got 2 buys this week. We got a London game as well. So I think Heineke is going to be that chalk play at 5,800. So that's where I would be going in cash. But I love the Mahomes call as well, and the highest over under that we have in the slate right now. I kind of like Justin Herbert a little bit, Matt, just from what we've seen so far this year, how good he was against Cleveland. And I mean that I understand they're on the road, but that Ravens defense last night against Wentz, they didn't look very good, especially that secondary.
Against Wentz too.
They couldn't stop the run. Yeah. So Jonathan Taylor ran all over him. Michael Pittman looked fantastic. Like Wentz looked pretty good. So I don't mind Herbert there, but again, probably more of a tournament play. I agree with you with Stafford.
Yep.
Any interest in Carson Wentz going up against Houston, 5,400? I mean, I think he's going to be a pretty cheap option. Again, I think he looked pretty good against Baltimore, honestly.
He did.
Threw for 400 yards, Matt, in a competitive game there. So I think he's a cheap option. I think there's a couple other cheaper options as well, like Jared Goff maybe at 5,100, but I think for cash, Taylor Heineke, 5,800, like that's going to be my guy.
I think this is pretty safe to say out loud. I think we saw a career game from Carson Wentz last night, and he scored 27.
Well, he didn't get hurt, so I think that's why it was
there you go.
Game.
He scored 27 points. That's a ceiling. So that's all I have to say about that. If you're looking at it from an upside perspective, no, I'm probably not touching him. If you want to go down and save some salary, sure. But again, I'd rather pay up for Taylor Heineke, which I don't really know his ceiling to this point. And he's been doing very well. Secretly been doing pretty well here at $5,800 in a fantastic matchup, as we've already talked about. So yeah, I still lean to Taylor Heineke. You guys can go to Wentz. I still think last game was more of an outlier performance. I don't think we'll see that. He'll probably end up with about 18 points, the most boring game ever, and then sprain his ankle. All right, ready to switch over to the running back position?
Yes.
All right. Going to the running back position, this one is a little bit more straightforward than the quarterback picture because I said there were some pay-up options, there was some mid-range, and then there was a bottom one. I think all of these running backs here in the mid-range option look very appealing. I'll start naming off a few. Jonathan Taylor sticks out to me at $6,600 versus Houston Texans in the game where they should be playing from ahead. I think they are 9-point favorites. They are 9-point favorites at home, TJ. This should be a very heavy dose of Jonathan Taylor.
Last night against Baltimore too.
That's another thing to note, and I think that he's going to be relatively chalky at $6,600. I think that price tag is still a little bit too soft on Jonathan Taylor. I've been the Jonathan Taylor hater this entire season just because, with Hines in the backfield, it just...
Yeah, that's...
What's up?
I know. I love cutting you off, and I'm sorry. That's the one thing I'm worried about. It's just the lack of offensive snaps that he sees on a week-to-week basis because you got, Hines, like you mentioned, Marlon Mack's been a thorn in the side a little bit here. So
what was last game?
I think... Yeah, the only thing I really get concerned with Jonathan Taylor is it's not his offensive production. It's more so just how many offensive snaps and how often he actually is in the field. But 6,600 at that price tag, Matt, yeah, I can get behind that.
And the game where the game script is really playing in his favor here. They don't really have to throw the ball. They shouldn't have to anyway. They're against the Houston Texans. So I do like him there at $6,600. Antonio Gibson, I can also say in the same breath for the exact same reasons. However, Antonio Gibson's he's not really in a good game script here because they're going to be playing from behind, which means McKissick is going to be the main focal point of that offense when they were playing from behind because he's a PPR monster. They're coming out of the backfield. I do prefer Jonathan Taylor over him, but I still like Antonio Gibson in terms of his value at $6,500. Madison, another guy that you have to plug and play at this point if Dalvin Cook is out. Dalvin Cook is expected to be back this week. I'm seeing early reports, but again, he was also supposed to play last week, and look where he ended up. So at $6,200, it's just a plug and play. I get it's not the best matchup, but Madison looks unstoppable. And I think that's not a very contrarian thing to say. I think everybody agrees with that. I think Madison, if he continues to be $6,200, if he's under $8,000 at this point and is the only guy in that backfield, fantastic price tag there. Another guy that's really sneaky, and I don't know if a lot of people saw him because I didn't see too many people talking about him. Chuba Hubbard got 24 attempts for 101 yards and was targeted in the receiving game, which is something that I expected in that week 1 performance, which didn't happen. Came right back against Philly. Granted, they lost that game. Another fantastic option, I think. I think he's going to be lower owned. But if I'm looking at him just in terms of sheer upside, again, going to be playing like that CMC role, assuming he does sit out the game. We still don't know what that's going to look like. $5,900. I think that's a fantastic matchup there versus Minnesota in a game where they should be playing back and forth. I believe that's supposed to be a close game. It is supposed to be a 1-point spread. Exactly.
Yeah.
So Chuba Hubbard. Yeah, go ahead.
The one thing I was going to say is I've actually been seeing a lot today that it looks like CMC is going to play this weekend against Minnesota. I think Dalvin Cook's the one guy that's really up in the air.
Yeah.
Along with Chris Carson, but obviously not on the slate.
I'm just reading this side here. It just says questionable for him.
Yeah,
for
yeah, but I think he is going to be good to go here. $8,800, Matt. I think he would be if he's good to go, you're gonna if Christian McCaffrey's playing.
And
which,
like I said,
I'm going to probably say it's probably 75% yes that he plays this weekend against Minnesota. Would you play him at 8,800?
For cash, probably no, just because of that injury. But for GBPs, yeah, I'm 1,000% overexposing myself. No questions asked, especially against Minnesota, where a game where they should be going back and forth. Yeah. Go ahead.
You done?
I'm not. I was going to go to the injuries now. Or do you want to do
that?
Let's
go. No.
Okay.
Keep going.
Devontae Booker.
I can do it.
Okay. You're really doing this. Okay. Devontae Booker, $5,400 without Saquon. We're unfortunately seeing Saquon down again. $5,400 is just going to be the bulk of that offense in terms of the backfield production there. They're only projected to score 19 points. I think that might be a little bit too much to be completely honest there against that Rams defense. Right. But Devontae Booker will get a ton of volume. That's guaranteed here in this game script. Darrell Williams, Kansas City, Washington, I think he's going to be chalk if he's sitting there at $4,900. Mm-hmm. Again, in the game script where they should be playing, they should be throwing the ball a lot. Darrell Williams, we saw him get a decent amount of action in the last game, 5 attempts for 27 yards, and was also targeted in the receiving game. The one thing at Darrell Williams, the one thing I love about him is his PPR upside, and as we know, Draftkings is all about PPR scoring. So Darrell Williams at $4,900, I feel like is the most obvious play in the slate and should be relatively chalky, of course, depending on how these injuries kind of shake up here once we get closer to Sunday. But those are my favorite plays, TJ. Did I miss anybody?
I mean, yeah. Do you even want me to say anything?
Hey, I said I was going to talk a lot this video, so.
No, I agree with you, Jonathan Taylor. I also like Antonio Gibson, McKissick in the mix there. Obviously, attacking that Kansas City defense is something you're going to want to do. Houston's given up the most touchdowns to opposing running backs with 9, tied with Kansas City Chiefs, and they've given up the 7th most rushing yards to opposing running backs as well. Again, with Jonathan Taylor, the only thing is the offensive snaps and how often he's actually on the field. But really soft price tag there at $6,600. Nick Chubb, we talked about him. Mm-hmm. He went bananas, 27 DraftKings points, but Kareem Hunt continues to get work as well.
Dude, I mean, what backfield? 26 and 27 points. Like, what
they're
does
the
that
best they're the best one too, obviously, in the league. I mean, I think Kareem Hunt's still really cheap at $6,200. I think he's just going to score a touchdown every single week. I mean, he's scored in 4 of their first 5 games. So
yeah,
I like both of those guys again in a competitive game here against Arizona. Mattinson, like you talked about, obviously, if Cook is out, he becomes a fantastic play at 6,200. You talked about the other guys in terms of the cheap plays. Devontae Booker at 5,400. I think he carries a lot of ownership, rightfully so. He played 88% of offensive snaps when Saquon exited that game. So he's somebody I think is going to carry ownership. You talked about Darrell Williams as well. He played 43% of offensive snaps, but that was after CEH had already played a quarter of that game. So I think he's going to carry some ownership. I think differentiating yourself between those two in big tournaments will be a fantastic way to get leverage on the field. But I think in terms of cash, Devontae Booker, Darrell Williams are 2 guys that will carry ownership. Matt, I also have some interest in Khalil Herbert a little bit here for Chicago. I don't really love the matchup against Green Bay. I think he's going to be a guy that I probably might be a little overweight on in tournaments, but at $4,600, he looked really good against the Raiders, 18 rush attempts, which was more than Damian Williams. They played about 50% of the snaps each. I had it in front of me, and now, of course, I don't have it. So if you bear with me 1 second, because I do want to read that.
The only thing The only thing that scares me about Herbert is it looks like he was primarily used for rushing, which is could hurt his stock here in this game because again, this game should go one way. They should be Green Bay. Now they are only 4 points, 4-point favorites, so that might eat my own words for that. But I don't know if I believe in that spread. Anyway, go ahead.
So Herbert played 53% of the offensive snaps, opposed to Damian Williams 48%. But Damian Williams, like you said, more of the pass catching back there, so he could get some more work. But I do like the upside there in terms of tournaments.
Yeah,
you took everybody, so I mean that's it. Let's move to wide receivers.
I was about to say, do any of these pay up options other than McCaffrey?
Eckler.
Okay, Eckler. I was about to say Eckler's probably the only guy that's really catching my eye.
Yeah, he's just going to continue to targets, touchdowns. Like he's just going to continue to do it all for that offense. Herbert's playing fantastic. I don't really like Aaron Jones against Chicago, so obviously he'll probably go for 3 touchdowns.
And I don't like Zeke against your team.
I love Zeke. If Zeke's healthy, I think they're just gonna run the ball. I don't want to play the Cowboys. They're just gonna run it down our throats, honestly. Like Matt, if we come back here next
Really?
week after that Patriots game, if Zeke and Tony
At
Pollard
home
both go
too?
for 100 yards, yeah, doesn't matter.
Hey,
Doesn't matter. I
the
wouldn't
last
be
home
surprised.
game, I mean, that was a very slow paced game
Different.
there against the GOAT.
Yeah, I know.
Just saying.
Different type of game.
Right, because Zeke is better than Tom Brady. All right, anyway, moving on to the wide receiver picture here. This one's interesting, and I want to talk about a few players because I don't know if you watched the Giants game. I'll get to the Giants here in a second, but
yeah, Darius Toney is a weapon,
dude. All right, well, you just brought it up, so we have to talk about it now. I have not been more amazed by a rookie player since Stephon Diggs when I've watched them. I like that. That is how amazed I was by him. He was open nearly every single play. They were showing the replays of him just getting off the line, and he was beating every single cornerback that he was on. Every single one.
They were just forcing it to him on every play just because.
It wasn't even forcing, though. He was just open. So
I know.
He is something special, and I do think he's going to continue to start and play. He's going to be the number one wide receiver at some point. He has to be. He is so
now,
good.
Matt, we have
punching
Kenny
the guy in the face. But
we have Kenny Golladay doubtful. Yeah, he's got some hands. I was seeing that Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton both have a chance to play this week.
Yeah.
If both of them are in, do you still think Kadarius Toney carries ownership?
I do.
Okay.
I think his price tag's too low for how much they're going to use him going forward. They were using him so much. I mean, they were
now Matt.
They were doing trick plays, throwing it to him in the backfield. He was chucking it down the field. What's up? Good.
Now Daniel Jones, if he is out and Mike Glennon is quarterback,
I was going to say, is Tony quarterback?
Because I don't. Because Mike Glennon was just chucking.
I was about to say I don't trust him as much as Daniel Jones, but yes, I do.
Right.
I still do trust him. Yes. Anyway, and then we got that out of the way. $5,600, I believe, still. Yes, he is, and he's technically questionable, so we have to pay attention to that. But anyway, let's talk about some of these pay-up options. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Mike Williams.
It's Mike's world. Can you look at the difference between Mike Williams and Keenan Allen right now?
Now I can. Yep.
$1,700 between the two, and you want to know why? Because Mike Williams is the guy.
When he's healthy, clearly.
Williams is the guy.
He is the guy, but Keenan Allen is still very good. So I don't want you to disrespect Keenan Allen. It sounds like you're trying to do that. There you go. You're disrespecting Keenan Allen. What is wrong with you?
Respect you in a second.
Justin Jefferson, also very, very good at football. 22.4 points. There's one guy I want to talk about a little bit later down on this list, but Cooper Kupp is a nice price tag here at $7,900. One thing we saw last game is Robert Woods finally get involved a lot more,
Yep.
but Cooper Kupp secretly had 10 total targets. He has double-digit targets through his first 5 games. That is insane. Is that a record? I don't know if that's a record, but that's insane. He's still got 7 receptions. I still think he's a fantastic price tag here at $7,900. Probably my favorite pay-up option in terms of consistency. I think he's very safe here against the Giants. And again, I do like Stafford. So if you want to pair those two together, by all means, feel free to do that. Terry McLaurin, $7,100. I think is going to be chalk, just because of his price tag. They're going to throw to him literally the entire game. And another guy that's going to stand out to me, Jamar Chase. What a beast he has been. Mm-hmm. He is a clear number 1 wide receiver now. I think we can all agree with that. At $6,700, I gave him 3 green thumbs up here. I'm going overweight on him 1,000%. $6,700. I feel like his price tag is only going to go up from here. Assuming that Joe Burrow does get back and is healthy and keeps throwing to him. Keenan Allen, $6,400. I know that you're hating on him, but still that price tag continues to go down, and he's still getting targets. 9 targets, 6 receptions. Both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen get all the targets in the offense, and Austin Eckler, but they just throw the entire time. So I love that. I still love Keenan Allen at $6,400. Robert Woods, $6,100. I feel like I'm reading down the list. And then also Michael Pittman at $5,500 against Houston does stand
everybody
up to
I have thumbs up. You just keep going.
Nice. That was it. That was literally it. So hopefully I didn't steal your last few guys.
My top 4 thumbs right now: Terry McLaurin, Jamar Chase, Kadarius Toney, and Michael Pittman. So yeah, I'm on board with all those guys. Love McLaurin, the matchup against the Chiefs. Obviously, him and Heineke are both going to be probably mega chalk, I would assume,
they are.
in terms of cash. So I love them. Love Jamar Chase, $6,700. He is the guy there in that Cincinnati wide receiver core. So as long as Joe Burrow is okay, which it looks like he is, because that poor guy takes an absolute beating every single week.
That was scary.
I'll continue to like Jamar Chase. Toney, like you said, I'm going to keep an eye on those Giants wide receivers just to see, who's in, who's out. If Sterling Shepard is in, or if Darius Slayton's in. It might change me a little bit on Kadarius Toney, but it's something we'll have to monitor throughout the week. Michael Pittman, obviously the rapport there with Carson Wentz is evident. Looked good against Baltimore. He's put together a couple really good games over his last 4 weeks. Imagine drafting him in like the 7th round and then dropping him in season long after week 1 because you wanted to pick up Tyson Williams. Wasn't me. I also have some interest in some cheaper Washington receivers, Matt. Adam Humphries and DeAndre Carter, 2 guys that are going to have to step up here. Curtis Samuel got hurt again. I mean, Curtis Samuel,
poor guy.
Just take the year off and just come back fully healthy next year. Because it's just I feel like he's just came back from IR. Now he's hurt again. Just go relax.
He's so good too. It's sad.
Yeah. Logan Thomas also out as well, obviously.
Adam Humphries. Don't jump too far. Okay, good.
Sorry. And DeAndre Carter, 2 guys that are going to have to step up. I like DeAndre Carter here at 3K, Matt. Against the Saints last week, he had 8 targets, which is something I really love to see. At 3K, I think he's going to be a decent cheap piece there in cash if you have to get really cheap. Tim Patrick is another guy I'm also interested in at $5,100. Teddy Bridgewater was back, 9 targets, played 95% of the offensive snaps, which was second most in week 5. He's a guy that's going to continue to be on the field as long as Jerry Jeudy is on IR.
I just hate those wide receivers. I hate looking at the Broncos wide receivers.
Courtland
so
Sutton
annoying.
and him, but they both were really good last week. So those are some guys that I'm eyeing, Matt. Again, Washington is the team that I'm going to be,
1000%.
Obviously on in terms of cash, right?
Yeah, I think in terms of stacks, once we get our ownerships tomorrow, I'm going to post his stacking percentages. By the way, guys, sign up for all that on dgfantasy.com for only $30 a month. What's up?
Link is below. I was just going to say we also obviously need to monitor Tyreek Hill because if he's out, that opens up a ton.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
A ton. So.
Well, same thing with Kelsey. We're transitioning to tight end here because he's also questionable. So, wow, that's going to be so much value here. What's up?
I think he's fine. He just got a stinger, so I'd be very surprised. Tyreek Hill is going to be the guy, if anybody, that misses.
If he sits,
the game against Washington, right?
Travis Kelsey, $7,000. Talk about the game stack there. I mean, I mean, his price tag is now. Did it go up to 81? Yeah, it went up to 81. Went all the way back down to 7K because he got a floor game, and then he also bounced back and still had 17.7. And now he's back down to 7. Okay. Anyway, play Travis Kelsey, as we always say. That's going to be a very safe bet. You still, you multiply his price tag times 2. He only has to get to 14 there, and he's done that every single week, dating back to last season, whatever week it was. Darren Waller also up here at $6,600 was chalk last week. Don't like the matchup there. Let's go ahead and just go right down to the value plays, TJ. I wanna give you the floor because you get to rub it in Kevin and I's face. You did call whoever you're about to talk about here stepping into the picture here for Logan Thomas.
Who? Ricky Seals-Jones? You mean the guy that played 99% of the offensive snaps?
I did. I was surprised about that. I was.
Yeah. But he looked good. He was only $2,500, Matt. He had 8 targets. 8 targets in a game where they're going to be trailing here against Kansas City, most likely. He's 3K.
Yes.
So I would assume Ricky Seals-Jones is probably the chalkiest play on the slate. If Tyreek Hill sits, Travis Kelsey, I think, could challenge that in terms of ownership. But yeah, I'm playing Ricky Seals-Jones again. Yeah. That's all I'm doing. I don't need to talk about anybody else.
I do want to talk about Evan Ingram. He also kind of stands out to me. Okay.
No, so bad. Don't play him.
He didn't do bad last game. He got 9.5.
He was terrible.
Okay, well, he literally did better than
No, he didn't.
He literally did, but okay.
Not point per dollar, and you know he didn't.
Oh, okay. Point per dollar. Oh, okay, cool.
Exactly.
So annoying. Okay, and then we have Mark Andrews, who's now a wagon again, so he might carry some ownership there versus Chargers, $5,200. Other than that, play Travis Kelsey or Ricky Seals-Jones.
Or Evan Ingram.
Or Evan Ingram. That's fine.
Wait, okay, just kidding. Continue.
Okay. That's it. Let's go ahead and move on to defenses. I honestly barely looked at defenses. Let's go ahead and sort by Vegas points because that's something I always do and look at it in terms of value. Let me actually sort now because I actually just got projections in as we were on. Hopefully the ownership doesn't update because I want to give it away. Colts, $3,500 versus the Texans look like the best point per dollar value. Cardinals at $2,700 against Cleveland. That's not right. Yeah, I do any defenses stand out to you here? Packers, $3,600 for cheap options because there's not really an obvious one like last week.
Yeah. And talk about the Patriots defense just absolutely bundling everybody when they were $4,900 there against Houston, only getting 5 DraftKings points, I believe it was. So stands out to me. I really like the expensive options, unfortunately, Matt. Like the Packers defense going up against Justin Fields. That's something that I'm interested in. Normally, I do like a cheap defense. Like,
this is like
maybe taking a chance on the Lions defense. Right. Or,
All right, I got one. I got one.
maybe Herbert slips up a little bit. So the Ravens D at 2,300. But I think if I had to go with a cheap defense, it would probably be, I don't have one.
I don't either.
Don't.
I do.
I don't.
This one stumped me too. I don't see anything.
I,
No.
Nope.
I'm going to go with the Texans against the Colts. That's my favorite pay down. $2,200. That could be a very low paced game. That game could easily be 20-7, and they just call it a day. I do like the Texans there at $2,200. I think this is a week where you put randomize on, you put all the projections to the exact same and hit 5,000%, and you just hit calculate. That's what I would do to pick my defense.
I agree with you.
That's it. I think we just covered this. Guys, start the Washington football team and the Chiefs. I think those are going to be this. I think that game's going to be just chalky in general in terms of stacking. And then visit back for our final look video, which we'll be posting on Friday, and also our live stream. If you guys did enjoy this content, please do hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course, smash that like button for all of our future NFL content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your night. Let's cash.
Love you guys. Good luck.